Okay, welcome back. It is late July 1860 and we have passed turn, and I think probably the last fortnight has been the most action-filled turn in this game so far. It's certainly the most bloody. The battles that have taken place are absolutely colossal landmark battles. Like, probably one of the engagements may even be the most bloody battle in history. It's that big. It's like more bloody than Leipzig, I think, which would have been probably one of the biggest or most bloody battles to date. Leipzig was a big battle in the Napoleonic War. Probably bloodier than any battle in the American Civil War. I may be wrong. There may be other battles even in the 19th century, but it's certainly up there. It's a huge engagement. And it's not just the only engagement. There are a number of really, really, really massive battles this turn. It's unbelievable, eye-watering stuff. Where we left off was the plan was to move Hussein Avni and Omar Pasha south from Sarajevo, having successfully lifted the siege at Sarajevo, to engage an Austrian force in a set-piece battle at Niš, an Austrian force which had moved south through Drobeta, Agosta, and was looking to envelop our position in Bosnia. Okay, and in the centre, Avdi Pasha was looking to clear the area around Plevna. The Austrians had kind of probed the river line. They had managed to get small forces across the river, brigade-sized forces. Initially were kind of probing, and then they had managed to use that to screen a larger force, which had managed to get to the south bank of the Danube. So he was looking to clear the area around Plevna. On the right, Abdul Karim Nadir. So Avdi was clearing Plevna. Abdul Karim Nadir on the right was moving up to lift the siege at Constanta. That was basically the plan, was to sort of conduct a counter-strike, really, against the Austrian position that was developing in northern Bulgaria. Let's walk through what's happened. So the first big battle that takes place in Plevna takes place, is Abdi Pasha's attempt to clear the area around the town. It is successful. It's only his force, but combined with the garrison inside Plevna. It's a victory against an Austrian army of about 150,000 men. He inflicts 54,000 casualties, takes 25,000 casualties, and takes 1,700 prisoners. But it's a convincing victory. It's a relatively brief action. It's in the bag, and we give the Austrians a mauling. They move down with siege guns. Obviously, they have plans for Plevna with those. That in itself would be a pretty convincing victory, and one that would be noteworthy, would be happy with that. But that's like, almost small potatoes compared to what comes, okay? That's the first big engagement. There is an additional engagement at Plevna. After that, I assume that Austrian force falls back. Maybe this is the remnants of it here. There are sort of damaged Austrian forces around. There is an additional significant attempt to press across the Danube, and it's massive. It's an Austrian force of 350,000 against Abdi Pasha's force of now 96,000. And it is probably the most bloody battle in history. It's got to be up there with the most bloody battles in history. It's an absolute bloodbath. It's the most bloody battle that we've had in this game so far during this time period. Probably the most bloody battle in Ottoman history. We take 50,000 casualties. We inflict 95,000 casualties. This has got to be bigger than Leipzig, which is one of the probably the biggest battle in history to date, I would have thought. It's a Napoleonic battle. But I reckon the casualties in this battle are probably bigger. Like, they're unbelievable. It's a victory, amazingly, against the huge Austrian force. And the casualties, as I say, they take are enormous. It looks like from this, Abdi Pasha loses his entire infantry division, and his guard corps loses a couple of elements. So he is going to need to have some of these forces reconstructed. But an absolute colossal victory. Now, there are no more battles in Plevna, but Abdi Pasha pulls back anyway. He disengages, probably to stop his force being overwhelmed. So even though he's not defeated in the field, he falls back towards Agosta and is joined by Omar Pasha, who moves up of his own volition through Niš and joins Abdi Pasha's force here to secure the southern bank of the Danube at Agosta. So that's one chapter of what happened. That's only one chapter, and that alone would be unreal. It continues. Omar Pasha then, it has the set piece at Niš, which is on nice flat ground, and that is a victory. It's a vintage Omar Pasha victory. He inflicts 63,000 casualties, destroys many elements, takes more than 10,000 prisoners, loses 23,000, about 24,000 himself, and that's a really convincing victory, done very rapidly, and yeah, it's absolutely nailed that one, but then he actually presses on of his own volition into Agosta to support, I guess, Abdi Pasha. And Hussein Avni halts holds the rear at Niche. He's no longer activated, but he's forced, by the looks of it, does participate in that battle in a supporting role. So that, you know, the kind of west bank, if you like, or the sort of west southern bank of the Danube is secure. Austrian forces move in from Sava to try and besiege Zvornik. So they're trying to put pressure on the kind of Bosnia also. The other move then is in the right, is Abdülkerim Nadir. Now, despite these unbelievable victories, with overwhelming kind of odds against us, the only battle where we have an advantage, which is Abdülkerim's force, outnumbers the Austrian force. He has 150,000 men, presumably some of those in a supporting role, and he's fairly heavily defeated. Well, like that, I mean, like, he inflicts 20,000 casualties, he takes 30,000. A lot of the casualties, he takes ranged casualties, which is interesting. They've only got 200 guns. They got half the guns that we have. But anyway, that is the one battle that should have been a victory. It's not a complete failure, however. The reason I say that is because his presence, the presence of his engineers, he actually manages to get inside the fortress at Constanta, which is where he is now. And his engineers are able to repair the structure, which is partially breached. So that kind of resets the siege, so to speak. But it doesn't mean that he's inside the fort. We're gonna try and get him out, set him to kind of retreat if engaged, get him to move south to Varna, because the garrison in Constanta is substantial. It's like 73,000 men, okay? And we'd poured a lot of resources into Constanta with a view of building this up as a kind of holding force for if Russia attacks us. So Constanta is a pretty substantial fort, you know. It is still, I think it's a pre-modern, yeah, so it's a pre-industrial fort still. It's not been completely modernized, but it is large. So anyway, we're going to now try and get Abdülkerim, having experienced a defeat, out of Constanta, set him. He's not activated, so we can't set to kind of evade combat, but we are going to try and get him to move south to Varna. Probably this is the first moment in this game that I have hopefully what is going to be a fleeting feeling of futility, because despite a combined actions which inflict about 230 to 235,000 casualties on the Austrians, 235,000 casualties in a fortnight on the Austrian army. You sort of look at the Austrian army and it looks alright. You know, they've got a force moved into Zvornik. They managed to they managed to clear us out of Plevna. They're now besieging the town. Plevna has been neglected as well, because we didn't really factor Plevna into a war with Austria, so we didn't really do much to build the fortress up. So, yeah, there's a good chance Plevna will fall, and like the master reserves they have are still there. Like, it's unreal. So, yeah, this is going to be really dicey. We can still turn this back. You know, this is not doomed or anything, but this is going to be a really serious fight. It does mean that the West, we're going to have to just forget about for now. We're going to hope that they'll hold as long as they can. They've all, you know, they've got a lot of kind of supplies, but these forts are going to be left to hold now, Sarajevo and Zvornik. And we need to focus on securing the southern bank of the Danube, because that is where the source is. I mean, that's exactly where the Austrians are focusing. They're really concentrating on getting into northern Bulgaria across the Danube. So we're going to forget the West. We're going to focus on restoring our position. And we can absolutely do it. We can absolutely do it. So we've got... Well, Avdi Pasha's force sustained heavy damage. It lost an entire cavalry division. We have begun replacing that division. Now we need to build another cavalry division on top of this, because we need a cavalry division for Rita Pasha's army, or the 5th army. It's Rita Pasha's for now anyway. So we've begun the construction of a replacement cavalry division. We'll have to build another cavalry division again soon. The 5th army is only partially formed, okay, but we're going to begin moving it. It's only 3 days march from Rumelia, and he's actually activated, which is amazing for Rita Pasha, but he's going to sit tight, he's going to hold a defensive posture, and the idea is he's going to be able to offer support to Abdülkerim Nadir. If he gets in a tricky situation in Varna, we're going to set Abdülkerim Nadir to enter Varna once he's there, and to really just secure some kind of like lines of communication, between Constantinople, Avdi Pasha's force, which is going to be in Sofia, Omar Pasha's force, which is going to be in Agosta. We're going to get Hussein Avni up. He's 3 days into Agosta to help secure this position and also provide support for Omar Pasha in the event that he conducts an offensive towards Plevna, which he's going to do at some point. The key thing is we are going to have to bring all of our forces to bear against this position here. Because you can see, I mean, the Austrian forces did take really heavy casualties. Probably if we pull something like this off again, the Austrian army could be in real trouble, because it's going to take them time to replace those losses. We inflict, by the way, about 230 to 235,000 casualties. We take about 130,000 casualties ourselves. Plus, we take just under 20,000 prisoners. So, just the most colossal and extraordinary kind of turn that we've seen so far. It's this war is absolutely on, and the Austrians mean it this time. They really, really, really want revenge. And yeah, this is going to be the entire Austrian field command. They do still have forces in the west. I don't think they're as substantial. I guess they got about 100 to 200,000 forces around here, and they had probably about 500,000 men, minus 200,000, I guess, along the Danube. So yeah, it's going to be a real serious fight, this. So the 5th Army under Rita, it's partially formed. It's about 50,000 men. We have got other forces being constructed that's going to join that. We've got the last corps, infantry corps, which is being constructed. That's going to be moved on rails to Romelia to join his force, plus a cavalry division when that finishes in Bursa, or we may move the cavalry division to Abdi Pasha. Although how long into this section of rail line? 30 days, yeah. So that cavalry division will be done in time. So in 30 days we'll have a line connecting Constantinople up to Sofia. That's crucial, because Sofia is a victory location. It is a place. The interesting thing here in terms of victory locations is Bucharest, which they just took, is a victory location. And they have Kronstadt and Hermannstadt as well. So we've got a number of... If we controlled these 3 areas, we could force the Austrians, if we held them for long enough. We don't have to control Vienna or Central Hungary. We could just control these locations for long enough and hold the Austrians back in the west. And we could be in a position to secure a peace. But there's going to be a lot more violence to come, I think, before that happens. So yeah, that's pretty much the... That's the rounds of action. The merchant fleet on the western approaches take some hits, loses some ships, and yeah, the Austrians are raiding there. There's not much we can do about that, to tell you the truth, for the time being. Let's check on the fleet. Yeah, so the main fleet is in good shape actually now, and we're going to move the main fleet back into the trade box. Okay, and we've got the kind of raiding force here. We're going to use this force. Let's have a look. Maybe it's in an escort role. Yeah, so we're going to use the kind of raiding fleet that we had as an escort for the merchant ships in the trade box. And we're going to use our main fleet to basically deal with Austrian raiders. We need to secure the Mediterranean. Not really just for trade, but we need to secure it because we actually don't have contiguous territory going to Tripolitania or Cyrenaica. We do need maritime access to the Mediterranean to supply various positions. So that's pretty much it. That's the report. The other kind of action that took place is in Yemen. It was a victory. We kind of cleared the area around Aden, destroyed a number of elements. But yeah, I mean, after the war in Europe, if we survive the war, we need to kind of, which we will, I'm sure, but we need to think about a real strategy for this, like with to basically pacify Aden and set a kind of deadline to say, okay, let's say between now and 65 or 67, 1870 even, we are gonna completely pacify Aden, and how we're going to do it. We need to actually, instead of taking an arbitrary approach, I'm thinking that, but for the time being, we need to just focus really on just holding our position here. We're going to keep Zarif Mustafa, having cleared Aden, we're going to keep him in the fort at Aden, just to use the kind of shelter that he gets there, the billeting to get his troops in kind of slightly better shape. Get the cavalry division at Hadida for the time being, I think. Actually, the cavalry divisions are not in bad shape, so we could maybe move that. We'll move that to Tays, try and clear the ground between Hadida and Aden. So that's it. That's all the big battles. We lose 1 national morale point for the defeat at Constanta. But we gain 1 national morale point for the engagement at Niš, which is Omar Pasha's kind of successful, his victory at Niš, which is a very convincing one indeed. So we kind of break even in terms of national morale. Austrian national morale is set at 138. They do have a lead on us, and we are atrophying national morale just from war weariness, Plus we lose 5 from the economic crisis. But yeah, that's pretty much it. One hell of a turn. I mean, as it happened, I was like wiping my eyes. I was like, is this, you know, is this happening? I was kind of rubbing my eyes thinking, this is actually happening. It's unreal. So garrisons mustered at Basra, so we've got an insurgency developing in southern Iraq. Let's keep an eye on military control. It looks like it's limited to Basra for now. Got a marine division there. We're going to set them to offensive, which we have. Garrison had died. Sana rather has mustered. Ankara started building textiles shop, which we have planned. Fine, good. We are going to have to sit tight. We're going to have to start building up some kind of manufactured goods, and it's going to take a bit of time. We still suffer 130,000 casualties. It's going to take time for our replacements to trickle through. In the case of Abdi Pasha's force, he's going to have to move south to Sofia. It's going to take him 7 days, and we are going to get him to enter the structure once he's there. He does need to reconstruct some of these forces. It requires us to do that in a place for the depot. The losses taken by Abdul Karim Nadir are not entire elements, at least not yet. It's going to take him 10 days to march to Varna, and the city is under siege, so he may very well be engaged. The hope is that he will simply fall back, which he's instructed to do, to Varna if engaged. The hope is that Austria doesn't try and do something dramatic and secure Varna as well, or move to Rumelia, because it could start getting really messy. But then if they overextend themselves, you know, we're in a position to strike, counterattack from the left. But Abdi Pasha's force reconstructing in Sofia. Omar Pasha, hold tight for now until we have support. We need support of at least another command before he conducts a move into Plevna. So we got Hussein Avenue moving up, but his position should be tight here now. It's the right, actually, and very dangerously, the area between the Austrian forces and our capital that is most kind of fluid at the moment. So we need to keep that in mind. There's no risk of them taking the capital in one turn or anything like that, I don't think. But nevertheless, we need to keep a careful eye on the situation. That's it. We finished. As the Battle of Niche happened, we finished our second coal extraction site. Railroad is still being built. It's going to take 75 days. Yeah, that's it. Let's have a look at. So we've got a revolt in Bursa. It looks like an isolated event. Abdi Pasha gets blamed for suffering heavy losses. It's a difficult thing, because to tell you the truth, what he did was nothing short of a miracle, frankly. But as is the nature in politics, you know, he's been kind of outmaneuvered by someone, and yeah, he takes a drop in seniority. But he was a very senior 3-star general anyway. Ahmed Pasha is congratulated. Ahmed Pasha is, I think, he's a corps commander in Omar's force. And Mehmed Vasif Pasha is congratulated for his actions. Ironically, he is a corps commander in Abdul Karim's force. So his force was actually defeated, the Imperial Guard. But for whatever reason, maybe he managed to salvage, you know, entire elements, or managed to kind of buy a bit of time, or did some kind of heroic deed. But anyway, so yeah, cavalry division, which was raiding in Montenegro, has fallen back. We've got that force to kind of retreat if engaged. It's in Albania. And that's pretty much it. Let's set economic crisis. Then let's spread to Argentina and Greece. And let's check our exports. So, fruits, cattle, textiles, dyes, tobacco. Okay. Very powerful turn then. Domestic market sales were very good in the last fortnight. 138 units of goods for 503 private revenue. Exports 74 for 277. And imports 20 merchandises for 40. Let's set our exports just now. And right, that's all good. We'll check our assets balance in a moment. Just make sure that we have enough of everything. So we're trying to push for exports and mechanical parts. Okay, that's fine. That's all good stuff. Okay, assets balance is fine then. We're meeting demand for everything. So that's good. Yeah, decent round economically that. We've already got 1,400. We could actually already go ahead, probably, and build an additional manufactory. Question is what and where. I think probably another luxury goods shop. Well, let's have a quick look in coal. We could build another coal site actually in Petric, which we did kind of resolve to do. Or indeed there's the possibility of a rail line down from, or down into Kosovo. That's quite mountainous terrain, or that's hilly terrain. Let's have a look if we can do it. No, the real problem that we're going to have is manufactured goods. If we do that, we won't have much. We'll hold off this term. We're going to hold off this term. Absolutely. I'll tell you what we'll do. Because we're light in manufactured goods, is we'll look at maybe a merchant squadron. 912 manufactured goods. Yeah, we'll do that. Now that is not that is actually the second merchant force that we have being constructed in Constantinople. So this is really, really good for kind of global trade. It kind of, yeah, it sort of sinks our tentacles deeper into the kind of the developing global market. So that's good. We've still got good manufactured goods after that. We've got ample manpower. Steel and coal looks good. We've got private capital. We've got lots of state revenue still. So that's good. France has declared war against Kingdom of Two Sicilies. That is bonkers. Okay. An incident between Britain... Oh, Britain receives a casus belli against Austria. That's going to be interesting. Be a major diplomatic incident next turn. God, that would be so good. Austria receives a casus belli against Sweden. Things are getting interesting. If this war sprawls and Britain gets involved, that would be really good news. Really exciting news, that. Okay, we've got some diplomats that we can expend. Okay, population increases then. Smyrna increases a point to 9. Izmit to 3. Antalya to 3. Burdur. Okay. Big demographic expansion then. Urfa. Okay, very good. Okay, good turn. That's fine. That's pretty much a report. So we get nice old kind of boost of prestige from battles that last turn. But yeah, what an unreal turn. I'm slightly anxious now. I'd really rather the next turn is somewhat quieter, and for the Austrians to just frankly sit tight outside Plevna and besiege it and not do anything too crazy. That's really what I'm hoping for. We've got Avdi Pasha set to fall back. He's going to enter the structure when he's there. Evade combat. Omar Pasha's holding at all costs. Hussein Avni is going to hold at all costs once he's there. I wonder if it would actually make more sense to get him into 12 days. No, let's not do that. Let's get him, because it's only 3 days march from Augusta. We will at some point move to counter that position at Zvornik, but I think for the now we want to secure our right flank on the Danube. So that's it. Exports have been set. There's nothing else to do. We've got the fleet sailing for the kind of trade box. And very quickly check our kind of commerce raiders, or rather our merchant ships. We've got 3 spares. Yeah, we're going to have to just sit tight for the time being and kind of let our replacement system do its job to kind of start getting replacements flooded up to the northern front, really. So I'll put you on pause. We're in late July now, and we'll see you in, I guess, early August. See you on the other side. Right, welcome back then. Early August. And it's been a lively fortnight again. Not quite as dramatic, but I mean, some, titanic battles once again. So... well, first of all, we haven't completely cleared Basra, but a victory, a bit of a guerrilla war, albeit a small one. We suffer 1,500 casualties, inflict only 281, but of a very small kind of insurgent force in Basra, and that seems to be okay. That's fine. That's kind of well in order, and it looks like sort of we'll be mopping that up. Now, the first big battle takes place then in Agosta. And it's an Austrian attempt to kind of repeat the success they had at Plevna in Agosta by forcing the situation. They've still got large forces there, but they've suffered heavy losses. But they move large forces into Agosta against Hussein Avni. I should say against Omar Pasha, but with Hussein Avni providing support. Again, I mean, nearly 80,000 casualties we inflict on the Austrians. They're destroying 4 elements, their reserve. So these are kind of what accounts for their large forces. A lot of reserve formations that they're able to now kind of levy, I suppose. Take 6,400 prisoners, lose nearly 20,000 men. But yeah, for 80,000, that is a convincing victory. We do have our star commander there, of course. But yeah, I mean, just incredible victory. We get 2 national morale points for that, actually. It's that big a victory, so that's good. While patrolling, Osman Pasha's fleet inflicts 5 hits, takes 10 in return. Osman Pasha is basically the kind of escort, if you like. We are going to have to now detach him and get that force back into Smyrna. That's the escort force for the kind of merchant fleet in the trade box. We'll keep him, I think. We'll set to an offensive posture and we'll keep to intercept anything en route, just in case we come across anything. And in the trade box now we have got the main fleet. So we're going to keep these guys in position. And I'm half thinking, do we just attach that to the merchant fleet? Let's do that. That's set to a defensive posture. So yeah, we're going to use the main fleet now to try and escort and kind of, if you like, bring these Austrian merchants, invite them to attack and deal damage in return. But back to the kind of high drama on the Danube then. We've got an additional engagement, a second engagement. This time we inflict about 40,000 casualties. I mean, that in itself would be great. You know, we destroyed 2 elements. Take 3,200 prisoners. We lose about 14,000 men in the second engagement. And yeah, pretty sensational stuff. Now, this is where things get interesting. The signs that the line is stabilizing in the east. Abdulkarim Nadir does successfully fall back to Varna. The Austrians do exactly what I feared, which is to try and move a force into Varna, probably breaking off from the force in Plevna. They have forces in reserve, substantial forces by the looks of it. Still, but there are some signs now that we're beginning to kind of wear them down. They've not done any damage to either Plevna or Constanza this turn. These forts are doing their job. They're functioning as a holding force. This time, Abdulkarim does well, but he's a much better defensive commander than he is an offensive commander. So in Varna, he wins a victory, inflicts 30,000 casualties, takes 17,000 almost himself. And or Rita Pasha, actually, I should say, is committed to that fight also in a supporting role. That's exactly why we moved him there. That's paid off. That's good to see. And that's actually that force is only partially formed. On that, we probably now have the 3rd corps ready. Yes, we do. Let's separate that out and get those guys strategically redeployed using rails to 5 days to Remelia. Yeah, and we'll how long would it take the supply force to actually march up? 19. You know, we'll just move them on rails next turn, to tell you the truth. Okay. So yeah, line is beginning to stabilise in the east. We are actually going to keep Abdulkarim Nadir, even though his force has taken damage again. It has recovered a bit. It's received replacements. Yeah, defensive posture, hold at all costs. He's going to try and hold the line in Varna, hold that position, stop them taking Varna. He gets support from Rita Pasha, and that's important in kind of, you know, stabilising this right flank, really. In the west, we do have stellar commanders, really. Our 2 best commanders, Omar Pasha and Hussein Avni, positioned really at Agosta. We're going to hold on a defensive posture here. We're going to hold at all costs, and the main thing is to draw them on. You know, they come on in the same old way, we cut them down in the same old way, sort of thing. So just hold this position. And once we've inflicted enough casualties and hopefully compel this force to fall back, we'll be looking to conduct a counter-stroke into Plevna and then ultimately to re-secure Constanza as well. But so far, during this passing of turn, I was kind of, my heart was actually racing. There was quite a bit of anxiety because I was looking at the Austrian forces thinking, good God, you know, like, I can't believe we've inflicted 230,000 casualties, and they still look like they're in pretty good form. But they're really going for it in this war. This is sort of what I expected in the last war. If this had happened in the last war, it would have been creamed, completely annihilated. We do have a larger army now, and our army reform is paying off a little bit here. And getting the 5th army in the field also is kind of is already paying dividends. Are we in a position yet to construct? No, not yet. We need 14 officers. We've got 12. Going to hold off on the additional cavalry division. Let's have a look at how this one is. It's going to take a bit of time for these guys to get sorted, but that force is still kind of in the process of being furnished. But that's pretty much it. Then 2 battles at Agosta or Sleven, and then 1 in Varna. But yeah, it looks like we are holding the kind of west side of the Danube line well. Shouldn't be flippant. Omar Pasha's force, it's 2 big engagements. He did take some losses, but yeah, we'll hold tight. We'll hold tight here for now. He does have 2 cavalry divisions. He's got a larger mobile element, actually, cavalry instead of guns. Once we get the 2nd cavalry division built, we're going to start a long-term production run of guns. We're going to be looking at building really 1 regiment of guns each term. We can't do it yet because we need the officers for an additional cavalry division. Basically, we're short 2 cavalry divisions. One which is destroyed, which is Abdi Pasha's force, which is currently inside and recovering in Sofia. And also, we need a cavalry division for the newly minted 5th army under Riza Pasha. That is a defensive army, but it's going to be there basically lending its support to sort of either flank. Abdi Pasha should be safe in the fort for now. He's got the northern kind of flank covered. He should be okay. Worst case scenario, we can move either Omar Pasha south or Hussein Abdi south to kind of re-secure the ground around Sofia. But I think we're okay in Sofia. We'll keep Abdi Pasha there. He needs replacements. He needs time to, I mean, he put an absolutely colossal defense in Plevna. Even though he was blamed for losses, I think that was unreasonable. But anyway. Yeah, so we're getting a lot of replacements out. That's good to see. And that's Namik Pasha. I think he is the... It's Mehmed Pasha. Where's Namik Pasha then? Oh, he must be a part of... he's the new 2-star general. Yeah, commands the Guard Corps and Hussein Abdi's force. He gets congratulated. Good to see. Good to see these kind of junior commanders coming up. Yeah, he's not bad. He could be a, a prospect for the future. Right, economic crisis spreads then to Taiping, Heavenly Kingdom, which is the kind of civil war kingdom in China and Portugal. Welcome to the club. And let's have a look at the economy this term. Domestic market sales again very strong. I mean, these are record domestic market sales. So the domestic market is despite that, you wouldn't think there were an economic crisis. Despite inflation, despite all these things, it's climbing. Good exports, imports are stable. Let's have a look at our trade balance. Happy with all that. Ample coal. We are soon going to be in a position to start exporting luxury goods. Dyes, we're running out of dyes. Okay, that's all good. Let's check our assets balance. Demand is met. Let's quickly check canned goods. Yeah, we'll leave that as is. Conversion of goods 20. Okay. Cash to market sales almost 10. It's crazy. 16 plus 3. Or 3 from expenses. Okay, that's all good. That's no kind of dramas there, no major issues. Plenty of coal. Coal still looks good. Let's quickly check. So, because we are in the midst of an economic crisis, we're going to try and check the census, make sure there's no strikes, any kind of civil unrest or dissent. There's nothing at the moment. There might be a kind of lag, really, between the kind of beginning of the economic crisis and any kind of knock-on ramifications or effects, or it might pass us by with just some inflation, some economic disruption, and hopefully that is the case. We are going to make a couple of quick diplomatic moves. I'm just going to read through the remainder of the reports to make sure there's nothing else that should concern us too much. I'm going to have a quick look at Sumatra, make sure the Dutch aren't making any plays over here. There's an American fleet loitering around the sort of Sea of Java area. Okay, everything's fine there with Sumatra, no kind of moves being made. Right, diplomatic moves, and we've got diplomats to spare, and what we want to do is to kind of, you know, we are at war with a major power, and it is definitely touch and go by any stretch of the imagination. So we are going to propose a state visit to the UK. I'll take a couple of attempts at this. Also, let's have a look at China. We're going to propose a state visit to China also. Because we're looking at China as a long term, we're looking at a commercial agreement with China at some point. Right. I think that's the moves we're going to make this turn in terms of... so we've got 2 state visit requests, one to the UK and one to China. And we're still promising local support to the UK. That will run out soon. Right, that's it. We're not going to make any kind of aggressive moves. We're simply going to sit on the defensive. We really want to calcify this line as much as we can, and then begin to set the basis for a counter-attack. We are inflicting heavy losses on the Austrians, but we're going to be careful about this becoming... This is very attritional stuff. It's the first time we've seen this. This is sort of, you know, starting to see the kind of warfare that you saw in the American Civil War here. Like, really kind of really horrific, bloody battles. Very attritional warfare, and it's quite different from the last couple of wars that we fought already, you know. And it looks like a lot of the Austrian combat factor, I suspect, comes from probably a qualitative leap in weapons development, maybe muzzle-loaded rifles or something like that, which gives them this kind of gives them a lot of firepower. Yeah, their combat power is still high, and they're still the largest army on Earth, despite these colossal losses they've suffered. We need to really be destroying elements wholesale. A part of the way to doing that is inflicting heavy casualties, is bringing the kind of, you know, bringing those elements to a kind of point where, in an additional engagements, they can be destroyed. I think that's kind of, it will happen. But their position now is quite weak in Augusta, and I think probably if they press the issue here, they're going to be in real trouble. They could be looking at losing a lot of forces, but we'll see what happens. Early August, so I'll pass the turn, put you on pause, and we'll see you on the other side in late August. Okay, welcome back. Late August, and yeah, another turn of kind of high drama, really. Throughout the last fortnight, the Austrians have made repeated attempts to storm both Sarajevo and Plevna, and they've continued their efforts to secure the kind of south bank of the Danube at Agosta, which has ultimately failed. And attrition now is beginning to take a toll on the Austrian forces in the Danube area. And we can see now their forces are weaker, they are looking more vulnerable. There are large Austrian reserves up in Bucharest, but we don't know what situation they're in, whether they are kind of like damaged units that have fallen back. We don't know. In order to get replacements, or at least full replacements, elements replaced, their units have to be in a depot. So they probably move damaged forces north, I don't know. But the urgency really now is that the fortress of Sarajevo is completely breached. Sarajevo is still held, but is on the verge of falling now. Let's have a look at the reports and go through. So the first battle then, which we get, let's have a look, scroll up. Well, first of all, we can see lots of breaches being made on fortresses in the siege. This suggests the Austrians have heavy guns here, siege guns. So they're making lots of breaches. There's breaches also at Zvornik. So they've got a lot of heavy guns, siege guns, which they're prepared for Bosnia. They've made breaches at Plevna also. So they use their guns to successfully make breaches and break down the forts. And there's also a siege going on here. Let's have a quick look at this. No, that's disconcerting. But a siege there also is not going well. First big battle then. It's kind of rated as a loss. The Bashi bazookas are completely destroyed that are inside the fortress. they're a kind of irregular paramilitary force that just happened to be in the area. We put them inside the fort when the war begun. That force is destroyed. We lose 16,000 casualties, inflict 10,000, they take 3,200 prisoners. The fort still holds, even though it's rated as a defeat. Peripheral affair, but Basra is cleared, basically. We'll set the Marine Brigade to a defensive posture now. That kind of very localized rebellion is over. Let's scroll down then. So the next big engagement is... We get a national morale point for this. This is a pitched battle in Aosta, or Sleven. And it's Omar Pasha doing his thing. He's got the support, of course, of Hussein Avni. He only takes 10,000 casualties, inflicts nearly 40,000. Outstanding stuff. And destroys 2 elements. One regular Hungarian line infantry regiment and a reserve regiment. So, successful outcome there. And that's the only national morale point we actually gain for battles. Now, the other battles are as an additional attempt to storm Plevna. Again, fails. This time, casualties very mild on either side. I'm guessing here the Austrians are running out of steam. That's the feeling I'm getting. Just based on the number of casualties, it suggests that the Austrians are breaking contact, really, before heavy casualties can be kind of inflicted or taken. And the force in Aosta now looks decidedly vulnerable. They've attempted to do the same in Aosta to what they did in Plevna, to secure the entire south bank of the Danube. It's failed here. It looks like their force is kind of bogged down. They're not making any headway, and they're getting basically stinging defeats in the field from Omar Pasha with the support of Hussein Avni. So that's the one we've already looked at. That's the second attempt to storm. Now, there's an additional assault, this time at Sarajevo. So this is the garrison in Sarajevo, which is also comprised of the Free Hungary Corps and elements of the kind of an additional Free Austrian Corps. We lose 20,000, inflict 20,000, basically. It's considered a victory, but I mean, last analysis, we hold the fort, so it's kind of a victory anyway. Quite a long battle, but yeah, a fairly concerted Austrian effort to take Sarajevo. We've got 150,000 men there, by the looks of it. It looks like that's been reinforced since. Quick naval engagement then, whilst patrolling. Mustafa Pasha's fleet inflicts 14 hits, takes 9 in return. That's what we want to see. So we're now beginning to whittle down these raiders. We're inflicting kind of casualties. Let's check the commerce. Commerce ships are in fairly good condition. We'll keep them there for one more fortnight, I think. So the kind of maritime war in the Mediterranean is beginning to turn in our favour. We're seeing then forces being committed to an additional engagement in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So there's an additional attempt here at storming Sarajevo. This time they inflict 18,000 casualties, plus take 8,000 prisoners. They only lose 4,000. Probably by the looks of it, they're inside the fort, right? The fort, anyway, that is largely destroyed at this point. We know that just from the readout of the kind of the structure being breached. So they're now, the city's on the verge of falling. There is an additional attempt to storm Sarajevo again. We lose 10,000, inflict 6,300. They take 1,600 prisoners. We're still holding out. They've still got about 20,000 men there, but it's it's getting dicey. Varna then on the right flank. This is Abdul Karim Nadir. Set to a defensive posture, but engages the Austrian forces there. Another big battle. It's a victory. Fairly mild casualties either side, and we take 5,000 and inflict sort of 10,000, or about 9,100. So it's a victory, but it's not sort of dazzling stuff. But we're getting an idea of the Austrian forces in theatre, what's prepared to support them and such. And the suggestion is now that we're in a position to counterattack. That is actually all of the engagements for this fortnight. Again, really intensive fighting on the south bank of the Danube. And the Austrians really are pushing. We need to kind of seal the deal here now and make a move, because the western flank is on the clock. They've breached Sarajevo. Sarajevo is going to fall this time, I think. Zvornik has a garrison. It's not a huge garrison. It's being besieged by a corps. Plus, there is an army corps to our rear, just to the south in Niš. We do have Bashi bazooks in the town, but we need to prepare a force ready to begin to strike west. But we need to secure the situation here first of all. So, to that end, I would suggest now that Austrian armies are attritioned enough. By the way, there is an additional Mustafa Pasha fleet inflict another 15 hits, take 7 in return. I would suggest then we're in a very good situation there in the trade box. That's 15 plus wherever the other kind of readout is, unless that's the initial one that I read. Yeah, 15 plus 14, so 30 hits in total. So we've probably sunk a few raiders, I would say, merchant raiders. Right, yeah, the situation in the west necessitates a resolution now. And Austrian forces are attritioned. They look weak. They've suffered heavy losses. The line has calcified. We've got a reserve corps, an additional corps, which has been moved up using rail transport to Rumelia. Rita Pasha is redeeming himself here. I've got to say, you know, he really looked awful in the first war. His stats are actually gradually increasing, and he's consistently activated. He's looking for redemption, and we're going to give him that opportunity. He's going to be in a supporting role. The man, obviously, for the job. Now, all of our forces, none of our forces are at full strength. The situation is such that the volatility, the level of violence in the northern Bulgaria is so extraordinary over the last month now, that there's no possibility of waiting until our forces are at full strength. The strain is going to be continuous. We're going to be continuously losing probably about the same kind of forces that we can replace. We have a backlog of replacements. It's going to take time. If we sit there and wait, the situation in the west is going to become really, really dangerous. So we're going to counterattack. Omar Pasha is obviously the man for the job. Now he's going to be set to offensive posture. He's going to be moving into Plevna. This is dangerous. It's going to take him 3 days. We don't know. He will obviously engage the force first of all in Agosta. He receives the support of Hussein Avni Pasha, Avdi Pasha in the south, Riza Pasha, and in the east, Abdul Karim Nadir is going to look to clear the area around Varna, but he is going to hold ground there. The structure in Constanta is partially breached. Only partially breached. I would say that we're going to be really careful here and not go too crazy. The garrison is substantial in Constanta, so fingers crossed they can hold another month or so. But Abdul Karim Nadir will look to clear the ground around Varna. He'll be supported by Riza Pasha in that endeavour. He is set to an offensive posture, all-out attack. The cavalry division, which is going to be a cavalry division, we're going to rail line now. It does connect up to Sofia. It's going to be Abdi Pasha's cavalry division. That's not completely constructed yet, but it's in the process. We're still constructing heavy cavalry regiments, the heavy part of that force. So not done yet. Next turn, we will look to begin the construction of a second cavalry division. So that's it. That's the move this turn. We're keeping Avdi Pasha really just in the field to provide support for Plevna and also Agosta, and to keep the ground around kind of Sofia safe. Possibly either he or Hussein Avni will be earmarked, probably both of them, for moving to Niš, Zvornik, and then we'll have 2 armies here. But we need to inflict a really serious defeat and roll up Austrian forces here. It's dangerous, it may not come off, but I think we could really retake the initiative now. The Austrians took the initiative, really. They suffered like heavy losses in Plevna, but they forced Avdi Pasha out, and since then they've got the initiative, but they're struggling to make ground from here on in. I think they're stalled increasingly. That's it. That's basically for this turn. That's all the military moves that we're going to make. We're going to flick through, just check our reports, make sure there's nothing else. So again, we're getting replacements. That's good to see. Ahmed Pasha gets congratulations. Good stuff. Okay, let's check our economy. Economic crisis spreads to Romania, to the north. Okay, that's all good. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Export's pretty much set. Let's check our assets balance very quickly. Demand is met. We've sent our diplomats who will receive a response next turn. Let's just check Austria's national morale. 136, it is sinking. Not fast enough. Economically, very good round. We've got the private capital now. We've got a lot of state revenue and a lot of manufactured goods. So we've got a few options here. First of all, I think probably we need to focus on some military things. So that's going to be military structures. So Let's have a look. Fort upgrades and extensions. We're going to begin a fort extension. That's 55 state revenue, 10 steel, 10 manufactured goods in Sofia. Where else are we going to begin fort extensions? Also in Salonika. We're going to begin the construction of a fortress, I think, at Agosta as well. It'll take time. We have forces there. The ground is fundamentally secured, I would say. Yeah, I'm happy with that, I think. It does eat into our manufactured goods. Doesn't leave us much. Let's see what options there are. Well, I tell you what, actually. I know exactly what I'm going to be looking at doing. Something that's sort of cost effective. It's relatively low manufactured goods, but it utilizes some of the capital that we have accumulated. Is a dyer's quarry in Beirut. How much are they actually? 662, 6789. Yeah, we'll leave that there. That's good. Plenty of coal. There's plenty of coal and steel. Still have plenty of private capital. We need manufactured goods. It's the main thing. Okay. That's it. I'm going to pass the turn, I think, in a moment. Let's just quickly check. That's probably a record in terms of domestic market sales. They're climbing. Exports are sound. Let's quickly check our assets balance for luxury goods. Are they climbing? No, they're stationary, so we're basically meeting demand. That's good. The next thing we're going to build is another luxury goods factory. Okay, no concerns there. Let's very quickly check colonial situations. The Dutch are making a play, bribing local chiefs in Medan. Okay. No major change there. Let's check the Gulf states very quickly, see what the colonial penetration is. 44, 39, 48. Well, he's activated, so yeah. Time to move north, buddy. 18 days. 60% chance of force marching. Make it in 13 days. Yeah, let's do it. Gonna get the cavalry division in Taze for the time being, I think. And if we can get the cavalry division there long term. How long will it take? No, we want the officers. We need to basically prioritize our military resources for the time being. But yeah, let's launch a counter-attack, lift the siege at kind of Sana. That's it. Yeah, I'm going to put you on pause, pass turn, and we're going to see how this goes then. We need to secure the south bank of the Danube and then begin to outfit a kind of task force, really, to head west to look to ultimately kind of retake Sarajevo, I suppose. But we need to stabilize the situation and hopefully inflict some kind of devastating defeat on the Austrians here. We have got the forces. It feels like we're able to stop them. We've got just enough, but we can't, we can't do the Danube and the west at the same time. That's clear. So we have to kind of secure this first. Got all our forces in place. We can do it, I think. It's going to be touch and go, and then we will need to we might even push Omar Pasha up then with the support of Abdul Karim to conduct an offensive in Constanta. That's a possibility as well. And then maybe Rita Pasha's long-term post will be in Plevna, set to a defensive posture with the support of other armies. That's the key thing. Yeah, I'll put you on pause, past turn. We're in late August then, so I'll see you in early September. Okay, early September. Let's have a look at the reports. Another round of heavy action. It's clear already that obviously Omar Pasha didn't make it to Plevna, but we're seeing a kind of, a kind of clearing up of a lot of Austrian forces here. And Austrian forces try to press down into Sofia. I mean, they're not going to see any success there. We've got Abdi Pasha there. It's a mixed force as well. We'll be setting to the offensive and be looking to clear that force out of the way there. Our forces have started to receive substantial replacements now, actually, and it's beginning to have a bit of an impact. We're still seeing casualties, but anyway, let's have a look at the kind of concrete information. So, one national morale point lost from that. That's the loss of Sarajevo. It's fallen. And if we look at that, we're going to be looking at an Austrian force of about 230, 240,000. Probably with a reserve of maybe 50,000. These mixed kind of army corps now beginning to press towards, I guess, Sofia or maybe down towards Salonika. So we need to begin to prepare a welcome party for them, basically. That's going to be happening soon. The siege of Zvornik is still on, so that area is not cleared yet. There's an army corps that's beginning to move through Montenegro. But yeah, we need to now look to counter this situation. In the west, Omar was set to move to Plevna in the event he engaged in a number of significant actions at Agosta, countering, I guess, further Austrian attempts to reinforce their wavering position there. We get 2 national morale points from this battle. The actual casualties are relatively mild, but they fall on, I'm guessing, very weak, very damaged. I mean, that's almost an entire army corps destroyed. Okay, and we take, what, 14,000? There's 143... 110... So there's 1,000. Yeah, it's 14,000, I think. So yeah, 14,000 prisoners, destroyed pretty much an entire army corps. And that's the first action at Agosta, and that's a comprehensive defeat of Austrian forces there. I'll look at what's happening in Yemen in a moment. There's a second action then. Again, Omar Pasha, outside Agosta, we destroy 7 elements this time, so we're now actually physically destroying. Again, another 11,000 prisoners. I mean, again, that's nearly a corps worth of infantry regiments. So these casualties are now beginning to translate themselves into actual destruction of Austrian forces on the ground. And that's very good to see. The Battle of Varna was also a success. 30,000 casualties inflicted on the Austrian force, 12,000 casualties taken, and that has cleared now the east side of Plevna. The fortress of Constanta remains partially breached. They've not attempted to storm it. There is a substantial garrison there that is well provisioned and supplied. But yeah, we are going to press the counter-attack this time into Plevna. The surrounding area looks like it has less Austrian forces. It may be that they're relocating them to the rear. I don't know. It may just be that we've destroyed a lot of forces. But we have destroyed a lot of forces, certainly. Abdi Pasha is going to be set to an offensive and all out. He's going to be clearing Austrian forces from around Sofia. We're going to keep Abdulkarim Nadir on the defensive posture. We're going to complete Omar Pasha's action, or do we? Because his force has taken some heavy losses and is fairly disorganized. Further to that, Hussein Avni is now activated. So I'm thinking we keep Omar Pasha sort of in place for the time being and get him to support Hussein Avni as he moves into Plevna. 3 days. He gets plenty of support from that, you know. I think we do that. And Omar Pasha's force needs to rest, and he's done sterling work in Agosta. And we're going to need him and Abdi Pasha probably to break off soon and prepare a welcome party for the Austrians in the west. But I would say, we get another national morale point then for another action. What is this? This time it's Hussein Avni actually engaging and destroying an Austrian force. Looks like a cavalry division. And then another action, an additional action. Oh no, in fact that's the one I just saw. That's the national. Okay, yeah, so that's the 20,000 casualties you inflict. Just a number of battles really. Trying to think how many battles this is. Bosnia. There's like 3 or 4 actions that all happen in Agosta, which is why Omar Pasha doesn't get to move. The net result is we basically destroy the entire Austrian army there. Probably rolled up a force of 50,000, something like that in total. Not all good news, obviously. We lose Bosnia-Herzegovina. We don't just lose that. We lose Sana also. Annoyingly, Zarif Mustafa didn't get there in time. Going to set him to an assault posture. We'll look to take it back immediately. We lose all our colonial structures. Once again, money down the pan. And, yeah, frustrating to see. That's the story of Yemen. We're going to have to obviously deal with the situation in Europe and then really develop a plan for this that actually kind of holds, you know. But yeah, high drama again on the Danube, but it feels like we've kind of stopped what looked like. I mean, when I began this video, and I'm hoping that because there's so much that's happened, it'll be unbelievable if this video, for whatever reason, kind of crashes again or something. But it feels like this situation, even though they technically still besiege Plevna and Constanta, I feel like we're in a position to reassert ourselves here now. And that this situation has stabilised, and once we take Plevna and Constanta, that we would be in a position then to actually hold those regions. With probably only a couple of armies. We've got 5 armies. We've got 2 armies will be in position here, 1 army here. That leaves 2 to move west, and I think 2 is enough, frankly, to begin to deal with the Austrian position here. So that's that, and we obviously put out a lot of finance this time around for some fortress upgrades. Excuse me. That's the cavalry division, almost ready. I guess let's move them on rails. Well, actually, let's get this cavalry division to Riza Pasha, I think, actually. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to get this cavalry division to Riza Pasha. And it's a coastal region, actually, so we can use riverine points. Yeah, we're going to use riverine points to get the kind of supplies. 14 days. Yeah, I'll settle for that. I mean, that's within a 2-week period. And we've also got guns. We'll set them on rails also. These are the guns that we bought up from Yemen. So, I mean, rails are just proving indispensable in this war, you know. It means that we're able to concentrate our forces really effectively and conduct a really good kind of action here, like, you know, securing central Bulgaria and really kind of stalling the Austrians here. I'm surprised they haven't taken Plevna yet. That's, you know, they will do soon, though. It's only a 3-day march for Hussein Avni, so he should get there before they take it. Yeah, so we lose a national morale point for the loss of Sarajevo and some prestige. We'll take that back, though. It'll be a siege, unfortunately, because it's a fortress that we built. In a weird way, on the surface of it, it looks like a bad turn. We captured an infantry corps in Agosta. We were. Just as we lose one, okay. An Austrian infantry corps. We'll take that. We'll put that in the new fortress. New Austrian volunteers. We'll take it. Not supplied for the moment. Actually, we won't put it there. We'll put it 9 days. We'll get it in Sofia because we need to firm up the defense in Sofia. Economic crisis spreads to the kingdom of 2 Sicilies. Probably the least of their worries, I think. Pretty good round economically again. Domestic market sales now are firmly within the 500 range. Exports are nice at 81 for 339. Got a lot of private capital. We need to basically stockpile manufactured goods. So we're going to be looking at structures that are basically absorb private capital, but not so much manufactured goods. An opportune time, really, to actually expand our merchant fleet. Britain refuses a state visit, as does China. That's a shame. Okay, I think that's it. I'm going to leave it there. I'm actually going to pick up this turn. So I'm not going to pass turn. I'm going to pick up in early September next video. Just so we can kind of just go over really what the plan is. Because I need to have a day to think about it. But I feel like the kind of futile, frightening moment, you know, the sense of futility that I had kind of, you know, a couple of, well, 4 or 5 turns ago has passed. I feel like that we're stabilising things here. On the surface of it, the situation looks bad. We lose Sarajevo and Sana. But actually, I feel like we've got control of this area now. you know, we've destroyed enough Austrian forces that we're kind of, yeah, we're stabilising the situation in the east. And that safeguards Adrianople, Sofia and Constantinople. And I feel like the next counter-attack is going to have to be in the west, aimed at kind of dealing with these Austrian forces here. So, we'll leave it there, and I'll pick up again in early September. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope that this doesn't crash, because so much has happened. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.